Hello, hello, hello. We're back. A little bit past time, but it's probably par for the course now. We're gonna fix it one day. Or it'll just be part of the bit there at the beginning. But yes. I know after we have to send out the tweets here. I had one ready to go, but I not must have closed it out. Who knows? And I keep forgetting to update the live thing. S- Live, we do the usual retweeting. Uh, the Justin White, thanks for coming through, and Babak, thanks for coming through also. And there was another person who um said something in the chat. Gabriel, thanks for coming through also. I saw you. I saw the message come through in through the relay, but I didn't see it in the restream chat. So maybe it was um maybe I didn't open it quick enough, but we made it and we're here. So appreciate it. Yeah, so if you saw the title Baramia, hopefully I got that somewhat right. Thanks for coming through. How are you? How's everybody's week been so far? Guess we get a little bit of chit chat in before we get into what I would kind of some of the things that I wanted to talk about today. And feel free if you have any, like maybe either pre-stream questions or before we get into the other part, talk about that too. But yeah, good to be back. Another week, another stream. Um, Doing Angular open source and all that good stuff. So yeah, trying to sing anything with NgRx in it is my favorite subject. Interesting. I haven't done well. I did the NgRx stream, um, basically the one on modern NgRx. I did that one a little while ago, and it seemed to do okay. The last stream I did with Chow actually did really well, considering the topic was about custom rendering and 3D websites in Angular 3, which was, I thought, very interesting and very in depth, I must say. And Chow did a great job of kind of explaining how he got there and what was going on there. So I thought it was a fun stream. I hope people enjoy. Well, it seems like people enjoyed. They're watching it on YouTube, so definitely appreciate that. JSUA, thanks for coming through. How are you? I'm not sure. Sometimes I'm not sure how people find the stream, whether it's me tweeting or the Discord notifications. Probably maybe the one in NgRx Discord maybe grabs a few people to come in, especially if it's about NgRx in particular. So, but appreciate it either way. Let's see. I think I included the last one. I already talked about the one with Android or Angular 15.1. I think we talked about that. Evgeny, thanks for coming through. Good to see you. Have time to usual have time to watch the records. I flock to anyone who gives Angular some love for a change. Refreshing to see. Yeah, appreciate that. I always say that there's not enough people doing Angular content, video content anyway. I think there is a good bit of written content out there on Angular, but like videos and live streams and stuff on YouTube and other places, I think is not as much, relatively speaking, anyway. And I try to do what I can to get some of that content out there. And of course, if I had more time, I'd make more videos and things, but try to do what we can. So yeah, if you have any, I will drop this in there. If you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see, um, feel free to drop those in the chat, and we'll try to do something with those, because those seems like the ones that do pretty well as questions that people have, things like that to make content about. So definitely feel free to drop those in there. Oscar, how are you? Good to see you. Playwright is a good one. Um, I think Playwright. Well, yes, I think there's a little bit of setup involved with Playwright, but that would be a good video, I think, to do something on integrating with the Angular app. I think they made the setup pretty easy actually. If you don't have like a first party tool, we can switch that, look in that. As far as getting set up and everything, they have like a few CLI tools you can use to get started and things. So the thing that they um, are still looking at least as far as I know, somebody pinged me on GitHub about was trying to get Angular working with their experimental component testing, and I had at least displayed that it could work with the analog Vite plugin. And so there would be some extra work to be done there as far as hooking it up to the test bed and kind of giving that same experience that like Cypress does. So, but yeah, at least a walkthrough of how to install it on maybe get set up with an Angular app, things like that might be interesting. So, something to look at there. And snapshot testing, I haven't used Playwright a whole lot actually, so it would be like a learning experience for me too. So if they do snapshots, we could look at that also as a thing to kind of play around and get started with. We've gone Cypress now after Protractor's death. It was a little difficult to get going as an Angular monorepo. The schematic was incorrect. Yeah, I thought. Oh, you mean the Cypress schematic was difficult to get going with, or I'd imagine it was that one. Excuse me, because I think they deprecated the like the one some of the ones that were out there and moved to the one that was provided by the Cypress team. But I'm not sure. Playwright rules. I'm sure you're not the only one that thinks that. Um, yeah, because there is a lot of I can share setup for Playwright and NX. Yeah, that would probably be helpful if you have some example to share. Anything that would be cool. Yeah, so like I said, this one is the I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Analog being one, and NgRx 15.2, which was released recently, and I tweeted about it. Had a let's see if I can bring up the tweet here. I should just bring up Marco's tweet because his was better than mine, I think, as far as the Marco Saint Dev. Yes. NgRx 15.2 was published recently, and two things came out of that: feature extra selectors and functional effects. The first one being, hopefully that's clear enough, extra selectors for with createFeature. So you can use the createFeature, or before you could use createFeature with reducer and a name, but if you wanted to define any extra selectors, you'd have to do those manually. So now you can use the extra selectors to kind of compose other selectors that, or even create new selectors that you want to maybe add to that feature, and you'll automatically get the selectors for those in your feature object along with the name and the reducer, same as before. So you're not having to connect two things anymore. You can just use those extra features in there. Don't you feel like NgRx is becoming too functional and less class based? Makes me give me a headache sometimes, but it's so powerful anyway. Good question. Um, we are, I would say, in the case of NgRx, we are taking advantage of what the framework provides. Like if you look at NgRx, like in the kind of like the APIs that have always been there, create action and create action and create reducer came along later, and create effect. We had the decorator. We kind of like evolved over time. We had the effect decorator with classes, and we kind of moved away from that because of type safety, and we went with create effect. And outside of the effect decorator, we haven't had any decorators um, since then. And the effects was the last thing that we had classes for, and part of it came up because of the issue with um, the TypeScript issue, the use define class fields. I can't remember what the exact name of the field was, but uh, I had actually thought about that, not being able to register effects without classes even before that issue came up. It just happened to be pretty timely that uh, it became like a thing in Angular that we have to like guard against now. Uh, are we becoming too functional? I don't know. I don't think we need classes for everything. So I think it's just a little more lightweight to be able to create these things without classes. So doing that with effects is kind of like the next evolution of that. So I don't know if we can, I don't think we can shrink any more down from here besides with the functional effects. So we'll see if that pans out to be the case, because you can still use the class based effects if you want. And if just to talk about that, you can still use the class based effects if you want to. Those will still be all that's still backwards compatible, and it doesn't break anything that's out there today. So if you're on version 15.2 or later when we release the next version, you can try out the functional effects and without the classes, and choose which one you prefer. We do have to we are looking at some additional APIs to where you might not even have to inject the store uh, in your components. You can just use like a helper function for that too. So we're we are taking full advantage of, like I said, these new APIs, and definitely the inject API has unlocked a lot of these things. So as long as it fits within normal use case and we're not doing anything like hacky or anything like that, we'll keep moving things forward. So create action group is one of my favorites. It would be nice to have a create selector group too, if possible. Interesting. What do you, what would create selector group do? What would create selector group do that create feature with extra selectors does not? That'd be my question. We're turning into NgRx AMA, but that's okay. And somebody asked a question: any advantage of using NX over the vanilla monorepo setup for Angular in Angular.json? Is it because you have a monorepo with other frameworks than Angular? No, it could be that you have all Angular applications and libraries in your monorepo. For those unfamiliar, NX is a smart, fast, extensible build system. Full disclaimer: I used to work at NX/Narwhal. Um, but yes, if you're, and they tailor towards Angular projects also, as well as other projects in a monorepo. But one of the advantages that you get in with NX anyway over a, traditional vanilla monorepo with Angular CLI is you get a lot more tooling around how you can tie everything together. If you generate a new project in a vanilla Angular CLI workspace, and you want to make it buildable, then you have to like orchestrate all the building and making sure all the dependencies are there together. So if you use NX, it wires all that up for you, and you can treat it just like a normal npm dependency as far as something that you can have in a separate library and use it, consume it in other places of your app. So it kind of helps you organize your application into smaller chunks in that way. And then you can get into the part where it only tests the things that were affected by a change, or only builds the thing that were affected by a change. So kind of helps you scale up from there. But that's like a small subset of what NX does, because it does a lot of things. But that's one thing specifically that it can help you with over the Angular CLI workspace anyway. I mean, you could do it. Lars wrote a blog post of trying to set up an NX like workspace with the Angular CLI, and it involves a lot of scripts and manual things that you would have to manage yourself instead of, now, unless you want to manage your own, dev tool stack, then you could do it. But NX already does a bunch of that stuff for you. Yeah, definitely take a look at it. If you're using the monorepo, I mean, you might as well give it a look. If you have multiple Angular apps and things, just for the build caching it, and like I said, separating of libraries and things, you might as well take a look at there. Looks like links. Oh, okay, yeah. Let me see about that. That may be. If you'll send it to me, just send it to me in a DM on Twitter, and I'll drop it in here. That's probably Nightbot being a little too assertive. I thought I had added GitHub as a domain, but I probably didn't add the gist.github.com as one. So, but yes, let's get into, as I mentioned before, we can get into NgRx version 15.2, standalone. I don't want to call them standalone effects, functional effects. So I kind of wanted to go through what that kind of looks like and see if we can put all of NgRx in one file and see what that kind of entails. So let's see. So I have a brand new project here. Let's go into projects. Where am I? Here and create analog NgRx. Call NgRx file. Analog NgRx file. And we'll run yarn on that. And we'll bring this in here. So we're just installing some dependencies at the moment. And I'll see if I can get the link to this here. Okay, cool. So we have our setup here. Now I'm using, I will say that I'm using analog to set this up. for that. Takanomi Dev, what's up? How are you? Nuki Hun. Nuki Hun. How are you? Thanks for coming through. I was saying that I am setting up, just going through setting up some of the, of course, the Angular NgRx parts first. Um, I could, of course, add this as like a starter in analog, but we ain't got that far yet. But so we only have the Angular v15 starter and the uh, thinking of adding like a blog template for using Markdown as content. Doing good. Learning Angular, just the basic stuff after hours, after work hour stuff. Okay, cool. What are you using for work? If you don't mind me asking, if it's not Angular. Okay, cool. Let's add some NgRx dependencies, store effects, store dev tools, router store. We'll go ahead and add them all. It's okay. Usually I would put store dev tools in the dev dependencies, but we're using all the good things here. Is that it? Store effects, router store, store dev tools, entity. Um, yeah, that's probably the main ones. Component store, I didn't add that one, but we're focusing on the global store for this particular one. Working for PG, doing websites with Contentful and Next.js, but it's too boring. I'm trying to get myself a junior Angular job. Interesting. Very interesting. What guess we're gonna ask questions. Well, I guess what you do, you ask questions, then you talk with the the chat. So um yeah, I am interested in what your experience is with Next.js or React versus Angular, because it's I think they're different thing. Well, they're kind of different thing. Of course, they're different frameworks, but how they like compare it against each other. So, uh, Peter, let's see if that oh, Nightbot again. Let's see. Yes, Dom. Yes, I thought it was the reverse trend also. That you're like the maybe the one of the first few people that I've seen trying to switch over from Next.js to um, Angular because you thought it was boring. I will say that might be the first time I've heard that. So interested to hear some thoughts there. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get Nightbot to behave. Nightbot, spam protection, timeout, disable whitelist links, options. Okay. Maybe if I add is.github.com, exit level moderator. Okay. Try it again and see if the links work now in Twitch at least. No promises on YouTube. I think it just got links blocked there anyway. Please check Twitter. Okay, yeah, I'll check Twitter direct messages. Just inherited our project, so I'm working with a spaghetti code base, excuse me, which made me hate Next. Ah, I see. That could be the trend also. Not having a good experience with the project, so it kind of sours you on um what you could how the experience could be. Uh Peter, thanks for coming through. Yes, without an opinionated framework, it's easy to do so. Yes, that is true. Okay, so we have our NgRx packages installed. And so we're going to go in here to main. Let's make a file here called products.ts. And this is going to give us route. So we have component, not composition event. There. Template. And we're going to say H2 products. Export default products. Component. And of course, standalone true. It would be easy to remake if I would have been one website, but managing 28 other regions and all of them unique. Wow, that is that is a bit of a challenge there. So let's see. Let's do ngserve. Go ahead and save that. And I talked about that, which we'll get into an example of using functional effects. But for now, use 5173. And we have our analog project up and running at least. And if we go to /products, we got products. Cool. We may fix some styles later, but we'll focus on the state for now. So as I mentioned, we're going to put all of the store in a single file because we can do that now. I think with 15.2. So let's hide that. It's a little bigger. Luke, what's up? It has been a long time. No see. And yes, we do need to go get sushi. So whenever you would like to make that happen, we can make that happen. Just saying. But thanks for coming through. So we're gonna import some things from NgRx store and from NgRx effects. So what we're going to do is list, just have a list of, and then we'll connect this to, we can probably connect this to the API also. With just list a few products with that. So, but we can get this stuff wired up first. So first we'll need an interface for a product. Give ID of a number and name of string. And then we can create the rest of our feature state. So could probably export this also. So what all we do, we need interface, we need our initial state, our feature, or our reducer, and then we can refactor it into a feature. Initial state. We'll call this. Oh, we define an interface for a feature, but not for interface for a product, but not one for our product state. And we'll just style this one a collection of products and current product ID of number. And our initial state, product state, will be a collection with an empty array. And number and null, we'll go with that. Current product IDs, null. Out of curiosity, would it be possible to use Nest in Analog's API routes instead of Nitro? The out of the box Swagger generation would be slick. Um, yeah, I want to say yes, it would be possible to do that. Um, I'd have to think about how to separate that, but yes, it should be possible to do if you wanted to hook up Nest to do that, or you could just have them. It could be one of those things where you have a Nest API and an analog monorepo next to each other. But I'd have to think about how to integrate that because Nitro kind of gives you everything out of the box. Yeah, you can do it with Nitro, and that's what we're doing now is give you an API out of the box, so it's all like a cohesive unit per se that you get a node server out when it does the build. So, um, but it is possible to use. It should be possible to use something like Nest.js if you wanted to use it for the server side rendering. Um, so definitely possible. So we have our. Let's shrink this down a little bit. So we have our initial state and we have our reducer equals create reducer in our initial state. We're going to add some things here. Create action group, which we'll use in a second, and create effect and actions from that, which we'll need in a second. So let's create some actions that we'll use in the reducer. Products actions equals create action group. And we'll use our source as products and our events. And we'll have one for enter, which will be empty props. So we won't pass anything when we enter a page. And we'll have load products success. And this one will be props. And we'll have products. And then we'll have one for load products. Or we'll change this to products loaded success. And products loaded failure. This will be props also with, which you can make this what you want, but we'll just say an error is a string. And so we have our at least 3 actions there that we can use there. But yes, for Nitro, if you're not familiar with what Nitro is, of course it's a pretty nice open source project. And it provides a lot of the, we'll say like the infrastructure underneath for analog, and that we use it for API routes, and it has where you can set a custom renderer. So we're using that underneath to use server side rendering and as pre-rendering also. And so it provides an API that we can hook into, a JavaScript API that we can hook into on that end to get things going there. Yvonne Allen, what is up? Where have you been? But yes, Nitro, we're using like leaning into a lot of those things for how analog works under the hood to be able to, because like I said, I didn't have to write all these things from scratch. And the part of a lot of that was in Nitro. So because of Nitro. But yes, Yvonne, haven't seen you in forever. I hope you are doing well. We should chat sometime off stream because I was checking on you. I was trying to check in on you a while back because I didn't know you had like disappeared, and I was just trying to make sure you was all good there. So, um, But yes, thanks for coming through. I don't know how you got the, I guess you follow the Twitch notifications. So appreciate you coming through. Um, yes, and we got some notifications here. Felix D3V, thanks for the follow. Evgeny, of course, appreciate you for the follow. Cool. Yes, we should definitely chat. Um, see what you're up to these days. Definitely caught me by surprise because I was like, I wasn't expecting to see you in the chat. But yes, cool. Yeah. So going back to the reducer here, um, we're gonna add some handlers for our reducer. So we created the create action group. We got enter, our enter action, and we take in a state and an action. And we're doing our usual spread. And we're just gonna reset the collection whenever they enter. So, hey, Andres, what's up? Glad to see you. Thanks for coming through. What are we doing today? We're doing NgRx all of NgRx in a single file because we can do that now. Uh, well, we probably could do it before, but it's a little less friction now, I would say. So products loaded success, state action. Yeah, I talked about NgRx 15.2 and action.products. Products loaded success. What am I missing here? Props. Oh, that's interesting. Is this props? I see. One thing I didn't do here was I didn't call this as a function. So it didn't give me the type inference that I needed down here. Now it works correctly. Nice catch. Products, and you can take out an action here. So we'll have we could also add an error handler here for a failure, but we don't need to do that just yet. So we have our interface for our product, our state, initial state, actions, because we can create, it's very simple, like line these up in a single file now. So we have those and our reducer. So we should, so that is, and we can go in here in our products and we can add some imports here. Let's see what we need. We need async pipe and ng4. And we'll add our ng on init. And because we're doing inject all the things, we'll do private store equals inject store. Of course, you can still use constructor injection if you would like, but we're just using the inject function here. So inject for dispatch, and then we'll have product actions dot enter. And then we'll need a one for products the modern way. Dominic, yes, of course. Products equals this store dot select, and we don't have a selector for this yet. So we're gonna go with how you would do this if you weren't using a create feature. Create feature selector, and call this products. export const select all products. I don't know why I just want to create a function there and have it do it for me like it was magic, but that's not where we are. So we'll select product state and we'll have state there. And we'll have state dot collection, I believe. Unknown. Can't remember if we deprecated this or not. Okay, there we go. So select products, and we haven't wired this up to here yet. So we have select all products, and we'll come in here and make an unordered list. And we'll use ng4 go select product of products. And we get some nice help from the language service at least. And product.name should be enough to start a nice list with. Yes, that was quite the bombshell. Chickabeck Bros, what's up? Yes, that was quite the bombshell in the NG game series where they alluded to eventually removing constructor injects. Yikes. Yes. Who knew it would have unlocked so many things to that fixing the inject for a constructor injection would open up. But hey, here we are. So we got products, we got our enter, and we should have not broken this. Oh, it's not working because we haven't registered yet. So if we go to our main.ts, and provide store. Now I am going to keep this one empty because of course we like to keep things modern, and provide state. And we're going to call this products and reducer. I should have named this products. Let's go back with that. Skip changes. No products. Okay. And we have to update our route for our products here. Okay, so we have our main here, our product, and provide store dev tools. We can add that. Let's see if we're back here with products. Okay, cool. So we haven't fetched any products yet, of course, but we could see if this is working. So we can go in here and create an ID of one and a name of my product. Let's call this my course. Everybody likes courses, I guess. So that should give me create feature selector, select product state, collection. And we have our, okay. So we had our initial state and then we had our collection there. And then when I hit the enter, I cleared the collection. So it's behaving as intended. So let's move. And then it's doing what I told it to do in this case. So let's move the collection from there. And just for listing, we can list the collection there. So now we have my course. We can make that a little bigger. So that's all that's working good and well. But of course we want to, so we can remove that. We want to connect to an actual API to get a list of products. And we do need effects for that. We still have everything in one file also. But we can shorten this up even a little more with createFeature, because we created these selectors manually here. But we can cut that down some. So let's export a const called products feature, and we'll say createFeature and add that import. And we'll give this a name, not an N, name of products, and reducer, and this should be in an object. Reducer. So we can take our reducer from here and put that in here. So now we have our products feature here. And now that we don't have our reducer here directly, what we can do is just drop this products feature into the provide state function there. So we save that. And createFeature, it does, like I mentioned before, give us some helper functions there, helper utilities there for creating additional selectors. But one thing that it does give us out of the box is these selectors that some of these selectors that I already have here. So we're going to export const of equals products feature, and we're going to select product state from there. So it'll give me the same selector that I wrote manually there, and along with the other selectors that I have. So I could do select collection and select current product ID also. So if I wanted to use instead of using the hand roll select all products, I could use select collection as select all products. And then we can delete that one. So we still have, of course, empty products there. Let's add one, ID one, product, or name, my course, just to make sure everything is still connecting correctly. Cool, my course. So this would be a good way to shorten up the, like I said, we're seeing how much we can squeeze into one file, and we've gotten a good bit of the way there. Create selector. And if as I mentioned before, if I wanted to add some extra selectors here, I could provide the select collection and select current product ID. And we'll wrap that in a callback function. Type errors. And just give me an error here. Name string has no, oh, there should be extra selectors there. Okay, cool. So if I want to name one called select current product, I could use create selector and select collection and select current product ID and products and ID, and use products dot find ID equals ID. And so then that one would come out here as select current product as an extra selector that we can use. Now, we're also not using, of course, NgRx entity here, but if you were to introduce NgRx entity to manage the products collection, you could still use createFeature and add your entity selectors to that. And I don't have an action here to select a product. Product selected. And this would be props. This would be ID of number. And then we can come down here and we'll copy this one just for that sake. And we can say product selected, state action, and override the current product ID with the ID of the action. Cool. So we still got my course. So let's hook the products up to the API, or let's move our products into an API and go and fetch them from there. So we'll take my course out of here and add, we have a server routes in here also. So we'll add one for products. And I'm just going to paste this in here first to make things a little shorter. So define event handler, and we just paste our array of products in there. And see if let's see if our route is ready for that. So let's copy this. And we'll use API/v1 products. And now we got some data that we can use in the app. And this is what I was mentioning about Nitro, that we're using it under the hood to give us an API that's just kind of baked into the analog app. So if you wanted to store some data in here without having to bring in a whole new API layer, you can do that, and it's still all baked in there. So we have our products page, our products API, and now we need to go and fetch that data with effects. So now with the, as I mentioned before, we have the option to use functional effects now. So I can export directly in this file a const of load products and use createEffect. And we can say actions. Once again, because we're injecting all the things, we can use actions equals inject actions. And which you don't have to use it this particular way, but it could make testing easier down the road. So because this will just return you a function that you can just use. So I'll write this out and then we can look at what that provides. I thought I already had inject import in here. I guess I didn't. Cool. So we have actions, then we use of type, products, actions.enter. And we want to use exhaust map in this case, because we want to go and fetch the products. And we need our, you could do this with a service. Also, let's see, what are we? Argument is type observable unknown. Okay, I haven't returned anything yet, so that's why it's giving me an error there. But exhaust map, we're doing this the shortest way possible. We're just going to use HTTP to inject our HTTP client. But you could have a service here that you use inject with, as long as it's provided in the correct scope for what you want to use. So we can use HTTP get, and we say we're going to get back a list of products, and we're going to use API v1/products. And we're not having to use like this or anything like that, but as you could. So we bring in our map. We have products, and we want to map those to products actions, products loaded success, and pass our products to that. So we have this is all you need to do, minus one more thing. We have our functional, definitely have to set our functional flag to true. So, and what that gives us before is, now it gives us a function that gives us an observable in return. So you can just call this as a function now. And if you think about it from a testing point of view, this could be, my mock actions. And you could just call the functional effect the same way. And that's because we're using this particular way to inject the dependencies, which I could drop the HTTP in there also. But that depends on how you want to handle that part. I'm just kind of showing the different examples. So we have our load products. We do need to register our main effects, so we can use provide effects in here. And we'll show it this way. We can use our load products. And I should have export const load products observable. And we can load that in there. So we're gonna work under that. We're getting the API response back correctly. You also, if you're doing this in an actual application, you need to, of course, catch errors and handle those. Yes, Andres, thanks for coming through and handle those. So we have our products. Let me check the chat over here. Cool. So we have our products, and if we go back to our app now, we still need to see if we no provider for HTTP client. That is correct. So we do need to go in, and we'll add it above the store here. Provide HTTP client there. And now let's go and just double check that we're back to our store with our empty collection to start with. And then we use load products. We go and fetch the data from the API, and we map that to our products loaded success. And let's see if we can verify this in the store dev tools. We have enter empty collection and products loaded success with our new product of my course. So we've moved most of, as I mentioned before, we're putting all of NgRx in one file here. And we did this in kind of in two, we did all of our state stuff in this file, but we did import some of those things from, and so import some of those things into our component. But like I mentioned before, with the inject functionality, we can move even more of these things into this file. Now, whether you, like I said, want to do this in practice is something you'd have to decide on. But for this exercise, we can go back to our main .ts and we have provide store and provide state and provide effects. So we're going to move store and store dev tools up to here. But what we want to do is move provide state and provide effects back into here. And we can do that by creating a function called provide. We can name this provide products feature. And what we want to return here is a function that's called make environment providers. And I think this is new in Angular 15.1 to where you can, it can take providers, like these are environment providers themselves. But now we can take those environment providers and move them into this file here. Like NgRx, but so much boilerplate. Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you. We almost made it. We almost made it through the stream. But yes, if you want to use the global store, there is some orchestration that you have to do there. And you prefer NgRx component store. That's where, see, that's where it usually heads to. We can jump into that really quickly also. If you want to use something a little more lightweight, there is NgRx component store also that you can use to manage component level state, or if you like to hoist it up to the global state, you can use it in that way also. There is a video, if I can find it, by Alex Akrushko that he did recently. Well, he didn't do it recently, but it was recently released. Component store, Alex, how to use component store. There. So let's go back to here. And if you want to learn how to use component store, I dropped that video in the chat there. So you can manage the state the way you wish. But now that we have our provide products feature, we can register our state and our effects in there instead of in here. So we'll leave provide effects in here just to register our root providers. But we can remove our feature level things individually and use provide products feature here instead. And we'll move that down a little bit. So we were able to move, we'll save that. Go back to our app here, everything's still good. We're able to move our feature into our products file here. So now if we really wanted to go, we really want to move as much as possible from our feature into this one file. We've moved all the registration of the feature, and oh, Dominic, you were there. Cool. Hopefully you got some good value out of that. If we wanted to move even more of the products feature to use to take advantage of the inject, We can use the product action and select all products. We can come down here and we could create another function called inject products feature. And what do we want to do in here? Well, we can bring in our store. So we can inject that. Of course, we want to return some API of things we want to expose. So we could have one for our products. And depending on which one you want to do it, we could have store.select, select all products. And if we wanted to wrap up our API in here, we don't have a function to do this today, but just as an example for our enter, we could store.dispatch products actions.enter. So we have a nice kind of concise API to inject into the function here. So we can close our API routes and go back into products, our products route. And we can come in here and we say read only products. Now I'm not totally sure what we could name this, but we can name or bring in inject products feature. I suppose we could even do this, but I wouldn't know if I would call it a view model with a $sign because it doesn't give us an observable out of the box. But what it does give us is a nice API to call functions and remove the store from injecting that into our component, which I know a lot of people are a fan of. And they usually use something like a facade for this particular feature. So, but this could be another way to kind of encapsulate, and we're right at 100 lines. This could be another way to encapsulate the store and expose the feature to your route here, and still have the actions and the observables kind of wrapped up in that way. And like I said, another thing, we're not using a class here. We don't have to use a class and then we don't have to use a class, an injectable decorator, and those extra things to do that. So we can kind of wrap that up in a nice package there. We provide it, we inject it, and then we can use it from there. And then you can override this inject products feature if you want to do testing and provide your own return, your own type for this to get that going there. I have a question. Is it a good idea to use multiple NgRx component stores and those communicate between each other without using NgRx store? Yes, absolutely. The component stores are meant to be used independently. So, but they're meant to be used. They are generally meant to be used in isolation from. They can be used in isolation from each other, but you can use. And maybe this is something that Alex mentioned in his talk also. That I'll reiterate is that the component store is completely independent of the global store. So you don't even need to use it. You don't even need to install it in your project or use it if you don't want to. Now you can use the two things together, but you don't have to. So if you wanted to only use component stores and have those communicate with each other, you can do that. Or if you have a part of your store that's global and you use the NgRx store for that, you can use the NgRx store in your component store and kind of combine those together as you need to. Can you please showcase how you could override the inject products feature function in your test? Sure, let's try it out. So we have our products component here. And let's see. Products.spec.ts. And we got some stuff in here. Describe products component. Now I am gonna do some hand waving here, just for time constraints, but you could write it should work with the store. So we have our before each. I thought I generated a, okay, here we go. It's like, I'm pretty sure I generated some of this stuff. There we go. Products component. We got default exports here. So we got products component here. So now we don't have anything registered here. One thing you could do is to kind of mock you could use like vi.mock. What do I want to use here? Outs. Store products, and then have this return. This is going to be, there's going to be an object, and this feature would have something like enter with a mock function on it, and what was it, products, and this could be an observable of empty array. So we're mocking out the inject products feature, and we basically want to give it the same signature that we would have for an observable of products and the inject products feature. We maybe could even go so far as to inject products feature. Oh, that's not what we want to do here. We use inject products feature from store products. Did you mean inject product? What did I miss? Okay. So we could say that, and now we're getting into something that was mentioned today, whether we should use inferred return types or inject products feature. Oh, that shouldn't be there anyway. But yes, what we want to do is infer the type that this returns, and then use that to validate what we're returning here. So if it would be something like this, if I just put it in here, that will work. But what I want to do is type of inject products feature, something like that. Enter does not exist on function. There we go. So that's a lot. which you don't necessarily have to. And I think this was kind of the gist of what we could set up here. But um, there's different ways you could do it. You could set it up using the test bed. You could mock the import itself. So there's different ways you could go about it. This is just one example of how you could do that. You could also import star as products feature, then use type of products feature for your return type. Yes, that's true also. Um, uninstall ASAP. Oh, I'm not using, maybe someone else had a question about Karma. DNDP, thanks for coming through. I missed that before. You don't have to mock the whole module import. Yeah, that's what I was saying. You have options. I'm using Angular elements with NgRx component store, and those elements are meant to be added to another legacy application. Works awesome. Maybe you can make a video about that. Oh, okay, I see. Cool. Paul Smith, thanks for coming through. I have just started using NgRx. Not sure when I should use something like NgRx Emmer. Yeah, so NgRx Emmer, for those that are unaware, is when you're using NgRx just without any additional dependencies, and you want to create new states, you have to do this return and spread the state, and then copy the properties into the new object. Emmer allows you to do this in a way where it looks like you're mutating state, but it's not, because it's handling it underneath using proxies. So if you don't want to, and it handles, I believe it handles like deeply nested properties and things. So we can bring up NgRx Emmer because Tim the Shriver, who's on the NgRx team, maintains this library, create Emmer reducer. So you can use this, as I mentioned before, to be able to just modify properties on your state without having to do like the spreading of the new object. So it just depends on, it's more of a matter of preference of what you want to do there, but it's definitely an option. If you've used Emmer before and comfortable with that, you can definitely use it in that way. So yeah, no objection to using that if that's what you want to use. And it's maintained by somebody who's on the team. So there you go. And we got a raid. What? I can't believe finite raid coming through. I really appreciate that, Mark. I didn't know you were even finishing around this time. Hello, raiders. We'll give the people a few minutes to come through. Well, I'm not showing. What am I saying? I'm not showing any ads. Welcome, raiders. How was your stream, Mark? Ah, yes. Normally long done, but today went pretty long. I see. Well, thanks for the raid. Either way, much appreciated. For those, hey, Imaget, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Sam Kit Kat, thanks for the follow. We got it's just bringing the whole crew of puppies and clones and everything else along. We're building me a portfolio website using Midjourney and Chat GPT and Astro. Wow, that's a mouthful. Hope that went pretty well. I saw a little bit of it when you were on earlier, where you were talking about you were using Midjourney and it kept putting you in a hoodie when you were trying to be an astronaut, which I thought was pretty funny. So, yes, I should do the shout out thing here. Finite. It doesn't autocomplete. That's fun. Is it shout out? There we go. Finite singularity. If you're looking for another person who also does Angular streams, he practically every day really wants me in a hoodie. Yes, practically every day. Definitely give a shout out to Finite. who does a lot of Angular content, builds a lot of cool things with Angular. So definitely check out his stream and give him a follow. Great stream. Just created my home website with Angular. Do you recommend Heroku for deploying Angular apps or something else? Going to be off streaming next week, family vacation. Hey, enjoy. We'll be back second full week of February. Okay, cool. Addiction Addict, thanks for coming through. Good to see you. I do not recommend Heroku for deployment. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. It just means that Heroku doesn't have any free tiers anymore. So I would pick something like Netlify or Vercel or something like that. Yes, Codex Hero. I definitely second that. Don't get COVID this time. Um, yeah, stay away from Heroku, Netlify, Vercel. There's plenty of other options that you can deploy your Angular app to. Um, my friend Anthony Campolo, which I'm doing a stream with on Monday, works at Edge.io, which is another place where you can deploy Angular applications also. So if you are looking for a stream, I believe we're going to be on there on Monday. And it's AJC Web Dev that I'll give. What? Have to wait 12 seconds. Wow. Wait 12 seconds before another shout out. Okay, we'll just type his name in the chat here. Twitch.tv AJC Web Dev is his handle. So you could definitely, we'll be doing a stream soon. And we'll probably try to get something deployed there. So we'll have to check that out and see what we have to do to get that going. Have you used AWS Cloud9 for development? I have not. I mainly use like IDEs like Stack Blitz, and I've used Gitpod, and there's Code Spaces also, which I've used once or twice. But yeah, those are the ones that I've used before. I haven't used Cloud9 for development. But I'm definitely a fan of cloud IDEs in general, because I have a thing for Chromebooks also, and cloud IDEs give you that local development feel, even though I'm on something like a Chromebook, which in some cases doesn't have as much horsepower, or you have to use it through like a Linux container or something like that. So, but yes, thanks Raiders for coming through, and we'll be sure to pass it on when we close up here, which will be in a little bit. So. Heroku, yeah, I've traditionally used Heroku before, they changed all their policies and things. I use them for like node servers and things like that. My stream bot used to be on Heroku, but now I need to just like deploy it somewhere else to get that running. So yeah, definitely will recommend other options. Let's see. Justin Rassier, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. But yes, we were kind of wrapping up here. We're doing all of modern NgRx in one file, and we got it just under 100 lines. And this includes actions, reducers, effects, and registration, and some sort of like mini facade function thing in our component here. And all that seemed to work pretty well. So if you haven't touched NgRx in a while and you're wanting to learn about the new features, kind of walk through some of those, or if you haven't used Component Store, NgRx Component Store, I'd say definitely check that out too. And we got to talk about extra selectors for createFeature and functional effects. So, and then of course we had some good questions in the chat from people who are looking at different options and things. And we talked about NgRx Emmer. And I've been it feels good to use your own use your own stack here. I used analog, which is something that I am working on, full stack meta framework for Angular. And I've been using it this whole time for development with Vite and API routes and all that good stuff. So if you're in the Angular ecosystem, feel free to check it out and see what we're doing and what we're building there. So join the Discord, all that good stuff. Yeah, so we just had a release of analog that has a release, and I refreshed the docs also. Definitely want to shout that out. So you can look at what the routing looks like, API routes, and the static site generation and server side rendering, and all those nice things you can layer on top of your Angular application to make developing quicker and faster. Love the new NgRx features, extra selectors, and functional effects. Hey, appreciate that. Addition Addict. Big shout out to Marco, who has been grinding away on the feature. So definitely want to give him a shout out, and the rest of the team too. But Marco's been definitely holding down the NgRx feature front these days. And me and Marco are going to meet up one day. Hopefully it'll be at NgConf. Well, it should be at NgConf because he's going to be there. I'm going to be there. If we don't, that's going to be some sort of crime. So definitely want to make that happen. But yes, I think that is probably going to do it for this one. Switch over to here. Yeah, thanks for everyone who came through. We'll definitely pass the raid on to someone else we can find and see what who we can pass the raid on to. If anybody has any suggestions, we will do that. You can see who I'm following on Twitch. It's fine. And then we can go on from there. InstaFluff. Haven't seen them in a while. CM Griffing is a usual coding garden. Cassidy. Maybe Cassidy. Sure, why not? Let's see. Is this okay? I'm not sure who this person was. I thought that was Lil Wayne at first, but it is not. But I know that person has a lot of followers on Twitch. So we'll give B Holmes Dev a raid here because he's doing some cool stuff with Astro and B Holmes Dev. He's doing some cool stuff with Astro and 10-stack router, which I am interested in doing something with. I had talked to the maintainer of 10-stack, Tanner Lindsley, and he's looking to make an adapter for Angular, a 10-stack router adapter for Angular. So we'll see if we can get into that too. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming through, and we'll get the raid started so we can get that going. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming through. Thanks for the community. Thanks to the community. Let me know if you see this video on YouTube. Of course, hit the subscribe and like button later. But we'll create something there. And with that, I will see you all in the next one.